Come on in. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is like the coolest job interview of all time. Get together and be like, should this person be president?
In your assessment, what are the policy breakdowns that lead to Americans still being hungry today?
Wow, I love this question. The fact that we're not able to put food into people's houses and on their tables is a structural problem. My campaign's based upon the premise that we're going through this profound economic transformation, the fourth industrial revolution. And one of the major problems is that we still pretend that if someone wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I need to put food on the table, I can go out to my main street, I can sell my time for money at some hourly rate, and then I'll be able to make a good enough living so I can feed my family. And that has become progressively less true over the last 40 years, unfortunately. My main priority will be as president, get the freedom dividend across the finish line and get buying power into Americans' hands, which will then lead us to be able to solve many other problems much more quickly.
I think it's clear that people are responding to you in part because you have this big vision. But Washington has a problem achieving even kind of modest
Yeah, we
visions.
noticed.
And we are currently enjoying a businessman president who has no experience in government or the military. What is your argument to people that you will do a better job dealing with the peculiarities of Washington?
First, any person who says they're going to run government like a business does not know what they're talking about, because they are two completely different things. In a business, you can say, hey, we're going to go this way, and people generally have to do what you're saying. In government, it's much more analogous to my role as the founder of a national nonprofit where you have hundreds or even thousands of stakeholders, and you have to try and generate energy around a vision, let people see that it's in their self-interest to get on board with your vision. That is the way I would lead as president.
If you become president, what government secret are you most excited to learn about?
Definitely aliens, of course. That'd be my first question. I got in there, I'd be like, all right, let me see them.
Who else besides you that you're running against understands the internet?
I'm going to say I do not have confidence that any of my opponents get the internet.
I was looking at the pin on your lapel, math. What's your math to winning the nomination?
To victory. We think we can do well, particularly in New Hampshire, because my campaign has a very strong appeal to independents, libertarians, and many, many disaffected Trump voters. I spoke to half a dozen Trump voters at my events in New Hampshire yesterday, and they said that they are crossing party lines to support me.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you all. We're going to make history together in 2020.
He's certainly in the running for the candidate you might want to spend more time with.
Yeah, he had amazing energy. I don't know if you guys saw, he was literally bouncing out the door and down the hall.
And he gives you the sense that he's actually in touch with sort of the anxiety of people under 40.
But it's just hard to get around the sense that this guy should be running for, like, New York City Council. I just kept on wanting to ask him, like, are you the guy who should be in charge of our national security?
Trump kicked the door open, and there are a lot of people who look at this and say, man, you know, I can do a better job than that. And I have to tell you, I haven't voiced it to you, my colleagues, but I've thought that several times myself. I'm serious. I thought, shit. You know, I mean...
Strike that from the transcript.
With some breaking news on the 2020 race, Senator Cory Booker is out.
Another Democratic presidential hopeful is dropped out of the race. Former Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro announced by video today he's suspending his campaign.
The major news in the race for 2020, Senator Kamala Harris announcing she's dropping out. Once drawing huge crowds, one of the top candidates on the Democratic side.
Two Democratic presidential candidates have announced they are dropping out of the race for the White House in 2020. Joe Sestak, a former U.S. representative from Pennsylvania, announced his decision Sunday. And Governor Steve Bullock of Montana announced his decision early Monday morning.
One less Democrat running for president.
Surprise, surprise. Guess who it is?
I don't know.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio pulled the plug on his White House bid today.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand has just dropped out of the 2020 Democratic primary.
Jay Inslee dropped out of the presidential race Wednesday evening.
Breaking 2020 news, former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper just officially announced he is ending his 2020 presidential campaign.
Congressman Eric Swalwell officially dropped out of the 2020 presidential race.
Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan has dropped out of the presidential race.
Andrew Yang jumped into the presidential race with no political experience, but he outlasted 3 governors, 2 senators, and 5 members of Congress.
And some of the journalists and the people being like, pretty much like, who the fuck is this guy? And I'm just like, is this not a democracy? Am I not an American? Am I not running? Do I not at this point have hundreds of thousands of people who are supporting my campaign and candidacy? Have I not left in my vapor trail half a dozen of your senators? To the fact that Americans don't think our politicians are up to the challenges of this era. And that the lessons of 2016 are not to select the most boring politician you can find, but it's instead to try and find someone who wants to solve the real problems on the ground that got Donald Trump elected.
Strike that from the transcript.
Put the money in our hands. Put the money in our hands. Put the money in our hands. Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.